So you got a guitar and you got an amp. What else do you need for a minimal ambient guitar setup? Let's find out. Hey everybody, welcome to Ambient Guitar Basics. This is a new series here on the channel. It's actually a refresher of an old series that I did several years ago called How to Play Ambient Guitar. And I'd like to kind of refresh with some updated topics, and new thoughts as we go along. So on this video, I thought I'd address how to set up an amp and a guitar for ambient guitar. So you probably know I normally use amp modelers, but I get a lot of questions about amplifiers. So it seems like a good idea to kind of start here, right? This is the basic setup. So before we get into pedals, let's kind of check out what I have going on. First of all, I've got an amplifier and it's got a little ugly head here, but it's a really cool custom built 6v6 GT amp. It probably puts about out, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 watts maybe. And then I've got a 1x12 cabinet with a Celestion speaker in it. And here's what the basic sound sounds like, and this is clean. All right, just kind of a basic clean tone. And so I think that's the first thing I think about when I think about amplifiers and ambient guitar. We're typically going to be adding in a lot of effect pedals. So having a distorted amplifier tone is not always as helpful because whatever you set up as an effects chain and then plug into your amplifier, if the amp is set to distort, it's going to distort all of your effects, and that may not be what you're looking for. Next up, we need to talk guitar for just a minute. As you can see, I've got an electric 12-string guitar here. This is a Reverend Airwave, and part of the reason why I'm playing this guitar on this video is that I just want to drive home the point that you do not have to have a specific type or brand of guitar to play ambient guitar. You can use whatever you have. If you've got a Telecaster, a Stratocaster, maybe it's an Epiphone, Les Paul copy, I don't know, Charvel, Jackson, ESP, Yamaha, you can go on down the list from very cost-effective to very expensive. All of them can be used for ambient guitar as long as they get a tone that you like. So how do we go about putting together some effect pedals for a basic ambient tone? I mean, this sounds good. But it's not really very, quote, ambient, right? We normally think of delays and reverbs when we think ambient. So let's see what I have on the floor. We'll just kind of go through one piece at a time, and I'll let you know what I think is critical and what is optional. All right, so here's what I've got set up. You can see it's a very simple pedal board. So that's the first thing. The pedal train pedal board that these pedals are sitting on is totally optional. If you don't have a pedal board, just put your pedals on the floor. I did that for years. It works just fine. Next up, you'll see that I've got a tuner on the pedal board, and that's totally optional, obviously, but it's really helpful to have a tuner available, especially if you're playing an electric 12-string like I am. After the tuner, I like to go into a compressor. Although I would say it is optional, I would say that it's highly desirable. And let me show you why. So here's, again, my just dry tone right through the amplifier into the microphone here on the amp. It's a very nice sound. However, when we get a little bit later into the video and we do some volume swells, it would be great to have a little more sustain, and that's where the compressor comes in. So again, the brand doesn't matter. I mean, if you like the sound, the brand doesn't matter, I should say. I've got a Wampler Ego on the floor, And again, here's the dry tone without the compressor. Let me go ahead and engage the compressor and then check this out. Yeah, that's a lot of sustain. Here's the compressor off. So it's a little subtle, but you can definitely tell that with the compressor on, which it is now, there's more of a sustain. As a matter of fact, if you listen carefully, rewind a little bit and listen to that again, you'll actually hear the tone kind of bloom as it rings out. So this is going to be very helpful when we get to volume swells. So again, compressor is optional, but if you have the budget for a compressor pedal, it's highly desirable, and I would put it first. After the compressor, I normally go into a distortion or overdrive pedal. I've got a Strymon Riverside on my pedal board, but really it doesn't have to be a Riverside, okay? It can be any kind of distortion pedal that you like the tone of. Maybe you're a fuzz-based kind of player. Well, heck yeah, put the fuzz down there. If you like a more heavy metal kind of tone and you've got a distortion pedal for that already, go ahead and use that. Again, it's whatever you like in terms of tone. What I have on the floor, though, is the Riverside, and it's kind of an amp kind of sounding distortion. So again, here's my clean tone. And here's what it sounds like with the Riverside. Yeah, I like that a lot. Again, it's very amp sounding, which I think matches this little amp. I'm not sure it would sound, a heavy metal style distortion pedal would sound that great. So anyhow, find a pedal that you like the tone of and go ahead and use that. Now, why do you need a distortion or overdrive pedal for ambient guitar? Well, remember, we're going to be keeping our amplifier essentially clean, right? We're not going to get a lot of amp distortion. So if you want to play some kind of distorted tones in your music, you're going to need that overdrive or distortion pedal. All right, we've got a compressor, we've got a distortion. Next up for my pedal board is the volume pedal. And for me, that's kind of the centerpiece of what I use to create volume swells. I've got a Morley volume pedal on the pedal board, but this is not the only brand, right? There are many options, so feel free to experiment with whatever suits you. So why do I think the volume pedal is kind of the centerpiece of creating volume swells? Well, I'm actually going to do another episode just on volume swells, but in short, for this episode, it's so easy to use. When you back off on the volume pedal, your guitar is silent, and when you pluck a note and raise the volume pedal, you get that volume swell. So it's very flexible, it's easy to use, it's very powerful. Now, do I think this is optional or required? Well, I'm going to have to say, interestingly enough, that it's optional. Again, I'll do it on the next episode of Ambient Guitar Basics. As you will see, there are options for creating swells without a volume pedal, but for me, it's certainly very convenient. All right, got a compressor, a distortion, and a volume pedal. What is next? What's next and last for this minimal ambient guitar pedal board is a delay pedal. I've got a Strymon Dig on the board, and you absolutely do not need a Strymon Dig. There are so many delays, so many great sounding delays at all different price points. You can definitely find a good sounding delay in your budget range. As a matter of fact, I've got a video, I'll link it here, for factors to consider when you're buying a delay pedal. All right, so Why do you need a delay? Well, it's probably self-obvious. This is how we're going to get that, quote, ambient tone, right, with having repeats off the delay pedal. So here's an example from the Strymon Dig. Okay, so that's great. And delay pedals let you do a lot of things, everything from kind of rhythmic delays. And you can do slapbacks. And you can do longer delays. And obviously you can control the number of repeats. So I'll turn that up. You know, when the repeats are up, depending on the delay you have, you can go into self-oscillation and really make a very just large, out of control kind of tone. But one of the other things that delays are really great for, again, it's probably self-evident, is volume swells. So let me go ahead and use my volume pedal to create some of those swells. Right, so I'm going to have a dedicated episode just on delays, but as you can see, it's kind of the foundation for a wide, spacious, quote, ambient type of tone. So is this required or optional? Yeah, of course, it's required. So we have a really simple signal chain here, but even though it is simple, it's actually quite flexible and you can get a lot of different types of sounds with it. Everything from, you know, a dry clean tone to a distorted delay lead tone. So just a lot of options. I used a pedal board like this for about 15 years when I played in the old school prog rock band that I was a member of back in the 70s, 80s into the early 90s. And you know, I very rarely felt like the pedal board was the limit. It was more me as the player that was the limiting factor. So do you agree or disagree with my minimal signal chain for ambient guitar into an amplifier? Drop a comment below and let me know. Also, if you've got thoughts for other topics for this series, let me know too. I'll get that into the mix. So go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the series, ring the bell, all that good stuff, and I will see all of you on the next video.